to, so it feels kind of weird to do a December wrap-up considering I didn't do a wrap-up for the second half of the month of the books I read. And then I know there's lots of like year-end content coming up. But I thought I'd go ahead and do it anyway for December. I read a total of 33 books, and 15 or 16 of them were Christmas related, and they were all like equally delightful. It got me into the Christmas spirit, and there was lots of like coziness involved. But these are my top 5 favorites of the month, and most of them weren't Christmas related. There's one that did make it to the top 5, but yeah, they were all, I had a really good reading month. So the first one is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell, and I've heard a lot about this book, and this is one I definitely wanted to squeeze in before the year ended, and I just love this cover. And this is following Hamnet and the family that inspired Shakespeare's play Hamlet. It focuses on the mother, Agnes, who she kind of has these like, not powers, but like she used like herbs and stuff to help heal people, and so she's shunned and seen as an outcast, and like people think that she can like talk to animals, and so she's kind of like the town outcast. But she marries Shakespeare, and they have a family, and Hamnet is one of the twins that she has, along with a couple of other children. And this follows them living in the village during the 1580s, and their struggle, and particularly with the marriage, the father, Shakespeare, my dog just walked up, the father has, he never got along well with his own father, and so he has a hard time living in this town, like this is a small village, constantly being underneath his own father. And so he wants to escape the family business, and so he goes to London, and due to at first like their finances and just they're starting out with this young family that the mother doesn't think she can bring the kids to London, and so there's they kind of like drift apart in a way, but the father's still in contact through letters, and so but anyway, I feel like it's mostly focused on like the mother's relationship and the children's relationship than it is with the father. I mean, the father is influenced, of course, and then I don't want to give anything away about this story, about how the play Hamlet came about, if you haven't read it already. But yeah, I would highly recommend this book. It really put me in the mood to read a lot more historical fiction. And when I read historical fiction, I mostly read 1800s. I don't like go back, especially the 1500s. Like that's very rare for me, but this for sure made me want to dig into looking at a lot more historical fiction. These are all in the order in which I read them. Christmas Charms by Terry Wilson, and this it says it's a Hallmark publishing. I don't know if there's been a movie yet. I don't subscribe to Hallmark. I don't have that channel on my TV, so I don't know if it's already a movie or not, but this was really cute. The charms part comes into play because the main character, she works at a jewelry shop in Manhattan that it sounds like Tiffany's, but it's like it gives it a different name, and so she's like the charm seller there at the jewelry store, and then when she's going to her hometown in upstate New York, and on the train ride there, she bumps into this woman that looks like Mrs. Claus, and she gets handed a charm bracelet that has lots of different Christmas related charms on it, like a snowman and a house and a dog with a red bow on it. And when she gets to her hometown, she starts to realize that each of the charms is related to something that she is going to see in the hometown. Like when we're out at her parents' house, there is a big fluffy golden retriever with a red bow, and then her charm starts jingling, and then that one, like the charm that it was before, like a dog, now it's like identical to the dog that she is now seeing in real life. So yeah, this story was my favorite of the Christmas books because just the atmosphere of the story. I mean, I like the like a little Santa Claus thing is cute and okay, but because I'm not really a big fan of like magical realism, but it gave it just enough of that suspended belief for it to be very charming. And I like the cozy atmosphere. She gets snowed in. She's trying to escape back to New York for this job offer, and so her car gets like plowed into a bunch of snow, and so that part isn't as cool. But yeah, it has like the snowy atmosphere, and yeah, this is just a really fun read. And it also has like this fire. I'm like randomly giving you little tidbits of the story, but there's also firefighters involved. Her father is retired from the firehouse, and then her love interest in this book is a firefighter. So there's a lot of events evolved around them, gathering the community for different things for children and for the community. So yeah, I really like this one. And the next one is by Susanna Clark, Perency, something like that. And I haven't read her other book. She's like a huge like doorstopper of a book, like Doctor Strange and Mr. Norrell, I think is what it's called. Something like that. There's Strange and Norrell somewhere in that title that I have yet to read. But this one is like the opposite end of the spectrum. It's like very small compared to that one. And this one is more, from what I gather from the other one, it seems more like grounded in fantasy. Where this one, it does have fantasy in it, but I don't know. It's like more of like speculative fiction or something. It really reminded me of George Saunders' short story collections. If any of you have read any of those, I know like The 10th of December is one of them, and I've read a couple of his other collections, and it has that kind of vibe. It's it feels like you're in the real world and there's not magic involved, but it has like this kind of like twist to it. And so in this one, Perency, it's just him and the other person in this world. It's like water world, and it's kind of depressing in a way because he's by himself, but he's not depressed. He's very enthusiastic about this world, and he's like wandering around these halls. There's statues that he like kind of like they're deities to him, and there's like skeletons that he is giving like food and water to, but then a lot of the plot is revolving around his communication with the other, who doesn't appear like him at all. Like they both consider themselves scientists, and Perency is kind of like grubby and has like very much a hand-me-down clothing, and his hair's kind of ragged. But then the other person has like kind of like a suit and tie, like very put together with nice shoes, and so there's like a disconnect there. So yeah, the story goes along with this huge like adventure, because at first, when I first started reading this book, like I don't know, the first like 20 pages or so, I wasn't sure exactly what was going on. I wasn't pulled into the story. I was very confused because it doesn't give you any background information. Like it just kind of like throws you into the story, which it pays off in the end, because like you really find out. You find out later on what's going on, which really worked. But yeah, I think if you get discouraged by this book when you pick it up, I would recommend like pushing through those first like 20 pages or so, because it definitely does pay off. The writing was really good, and the atmosphere and the world, it was very unique. And I think of all the books I read this year, this is one for sure that would stand out, especially with the fantasy books that I read, just for the uniqueness of it. And then my fourth, number 4, I think, my fourth favorite book of that month is The Particulars of Peter, Dance Lessons, DNA Tests, and Other Excuses to Hang Out with My Perfect Dog by Kelly Convoy. And this is about her living with and adopting her dog, Peter. And that is what the dog looks like, because there's a couple pictures in the book. And her dog's called Peter Parker. She's living alone in like her New York Brooklyn apartment, and she decides to foster a dog, and then she ends up adopting Peter Parker. And it's just I loved her enthusiasm for her dog. Like she makes up all these songs for the dog, and she goes, like, as the subtitle suggests, she takes it to dancing lessons. She gets the DNA test done, and she's like, what is this DNA test for? And like I considered getting it for my dog just because I'm curious, because he's such a unique looking dog. But I'm like, and it's kind of expensive. I looked at it, I was like, if it's like $25, $50, okay, but it's more than that. So I was like, it's not worth it. Like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, she does the DNA test, and she talks about the different levels of DNA tests you can get. And then she talks to her vet. She's like, you know, what is this for? Like, now that you know what my dog is, and it's like a huge jumble of like 10 or 15 different breeds. You know, what does this help? Like, now can you tell me what diseases he's going to get in later life? Like, can this have an effect on his medical health? And they're like, no. You know, so it's really just like, she's like, oh, I guess I'm just going to use this when I go to a dog park. If someone tells me, oh, you know, your dog is this, then I can tell them, oh, no, actually, it's this and this. So, yeah, there's a lot of humor in this book. She takes her dog to Wolfstock, and she really gets into exploring not just what's in New York City, but like hours away in Pennsylvania and all over the place of what's available for different doggy events. And so yeah, if there's any dog lovers, or if you have a dog of your own, then I think, yeah, this will be a really fun memoir to read. And then the last one is Catch, Lake Country, Life in the North Woods by John J. Rowlands. And this is about a man who, he decides to live way up north in northern Ontario. And he has a couple other people near him, but he's kind of alone, similar to the other book I was reading this month, One Man's Wilderness, An Alaskan Odyssey by Sam Keith from the Journals of Richard Prunek. And this one was similar, where he decides to live out in the middle of nowhere in Alaska, and like where he has to get his supplies and everything dropped off from like bush pilots. And so he's very, very much alone and isolated in this one. And he like builds his own cabin and talks about, you know, gathering food and the different wildlife that he encounters. But in this one stood out more than the other one, because along with him telling his story of, you know, building his cabin and living out in the woods and trekking through the forest and hunting and gathering and, you know, storing up food for the winter, along with that, it also has a lot of like drawings and descriptions on how to do these things, like set instructions in a way, different recipes for food that he's making. And so I really enjoyed that. Not that I'm going to use it on my, like take these instructions and, you know, put them to use, practical use, and like setting off on my own adventure in the wilderness. But I really like that, that aspect of this book. And so that, you know, this one brought up a notch compared to the Alaskan book. And, yeah, it's also like one of his friends is, he's called like Chief. And I don't know if he was an actual Native American, chief, but a lot of the Native American lifestyle and how they were using different methods of keeping warm in the winter, and like different, like how they sew their moccasins together, and how they like tan their hides, different things like that. Like he talks a lot, compares them to the English way, or in this case the Canadian way. And like has like pictures, and so you can really see and get a feel for the difference, which was also quite a joy to read about. So yeah, if any of you like nature outdoor books, then this one was highly recommended. I was looking at the reviews, and it seems to be like considered a classic, like an outdoor memoir classic. So yeah, maybe a lot of you have heard about this book, but yeah, this was nice to read. So those are my favorite books of December. Let me know if you've heard any of these, and I will be back with lots of like end of the year videos. And yeah, I was thinking about, I'm not sure if I want to do, because I read a lot of books, I'm not sure if I want to do like just fiction and nonfiction, or if I want to break it down even further into like my top nature, my top history, my top biography, you know, fiction, mystery. And so, I mean, I could go on and on forever. I can make a million videos on this. But yeah, I'm going to consider all this. And yeah, let me know if you have any ideas. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks, BookTube.